Last week on IG, I learned that the imagination works in reverse. It made me wonder if we rewind to realize that we are just winging it when we're flying back to a future we envisioned, even when there is nowhere an end, nowhere in sight. Why we begin with the end in mind. Last week on IG, some scientists poured cement into an anthill to see what was underneath. When they dug what remained, they found caverns and caves, the city of Shangri-La 2 meters deep. This made me think of the meaning of hard work and the layers it takes to complete. Last week on IG, I saw a slideshow from a photographer taking pictures of her mom and dad waving in their driveway as she left. You swipe and the years roll by, a time machine of time well spent and a celebration of the end. You swipe, mom and dad, just mom, then an empty spot. It made me think, you never know when it's the last time. So let me rewind about those ants. When you grow up in the South and you're bored or coming up a few cents short of paying attention, you step in a mound that springs to life. Thousands of little bodies and some of them bite. But what's most important is that from a bird's eye view, what looks like a frenzy is a frenetic sense of responsibility to get to work, to pull it all in and put it back together. A machine shattered into 1,000 parts places the pieces to restore the piece of place. When you go to the town over and volunteer to carry food, clothes, and water, you see what looks like a frenzy, but it is a frenetic sense of responsibility, placing the pieces to restore the piece of place. And when you take a break, you get a box of honey kettle chicken and you start eating. A gentleman walks up and asks if we are enjoying the feast, and by the looks of the bones on my plate, it goes without saying. You hear him say, it's a family recipe, and when you walk up to him and say, hey, this food tastes like family, he says, thanks, that was our intent. A few more words are shared and he says, my whole family is here in Altadena. It's 5 houses. Mine is the only one left. Yet, there he was, a part of the frenzy to restore a sense of place. Let me rewind to the pictures. Myself and a friend from a cohort were scheduled to meet. When it was just wind, he said, my wife wants me near in case we have to leave. 3 days later, he shares 2 pictures, the home that was and the one that was no more. Didn't know that it would be the last time. But he waved farewell to it with a smile because he knew it was time to begin again. Let me rewind to having seen this before. A force of nature reminds us that kindness and provision are easily overturned in the face of true power. Water crashed on the shores on the other side of the country. The city that never sleeps was put to bed with no power. And at the first sign of light, you volunteer and you go to Staten Island, which no New Yorker does without the Wu-Tang or a cataclysm. But you see the same thing, pieces everywhere, and the peace in everyone moving at God's speed to restore the sense of place. We restore. As caretakers and caregivers, we restore. As cities and counties, we restore. Across our country's borders, we restore. Across the oceans, continents away, we restore. Even in the face of mighty wind and great flames, we restore. And if we must go back to the future to bring our piece to the grand puzzle of this place, then may we return even greater than we ever imagined before.
Have you ever experienced a moment where you really wanted to make it count? What thoughts did you have? How did you feel? Did you make it count? Well, today in our conversation, is titled Smart Influence, Making It Count, we're going to explore the elements of how to make it count with the primary elements of how we show up: our minds, our voices, and our bodies. And so I'm really excited now to welcome back to the stage the gentleman that we'll be spending time with to really dive into this topic. And this is Marshall Davis Jones. All right, so Marshall, so first of all, thank you very much for that spoken word moment. Something really, really special. as I was listening to it, I was thinking back to the fires that happened in Los Angeles. That's what this moment was about. When he was talking about. This actually hits close to home for me because my cousin-in-law, my wife's extended family, they have a home in Altadena, and they actually lost everything. And so they are experiencing what you were talking about in what you wrote and what you shared with us. So definitely powerful. We'll actually talk about that here in a minute. But before we do that, I wanted to formally share a little bit more about who we have with us right now. So I'm just going to read this here really quickly, just a few highlights of Marshall's background, and then I'm going to fire a quick question to him to share a little bit more about who he is. So Marshall Davis Jones, founder of Mind Body Speak, specializing in high performance communication training that integrates biomechanics, vocal modulation, and emotional regulation. A strategist, educator, and author of Tonal Influence, he equips professionals with embodied tools for leadership presence, difficult conversations, and executive clarity across industries and remote teams. So this is who we have before us. And the first question that I have for you, sir, is who is Marshall Davis Jones?
Oh man, let's just start with the softballs. Why don't you? Sure. No, I'm a guy. You know what I mean?
A guy.
I'm a guy, and I say that because we show up, and depending on who's asking that question, it's a different thing. You know what I mean? So we show up at home with our partners, with our children, with our families, and it's like, well, who are you? It's like, well, who are you now? And it's really that sense of interesting balance between the integrity of who you are and the flexibility to sway that we like to focus on.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a mix of the core of who you are and the needs of how you need to show up based on your different context, moment, or situations. And being aware and have the skills and the tools to do that helps the influence, which is what we're talking about today.
Yes.
And so, okay, that's a really good thing. That's so more about you, which is great. So now let's unpack. Let's spend a little bit of time on the spoken word moment, the piece. I'm curious about the inspiration, where that came from, and then we'll dive into a few more things.
Man, being in LA, there was an event that was taking place, and it was taking place on the heels of the fires. And I was tasked to write something for that event, and I didn't know what I was going to create, but it dawned on me maybe about 2 nights before. I just started reflecting on everything that had happened, not just to people, but how people showed up. And I mentioned Hurricane Sandy, which was the other event, and going to Staten Island and seeing how when everything was washed away, you go and you watch someone throw their Saturday evening, their weekend into the back of a garbage truck, and you just watch it disintegrate like that. But people giving out food, giving out things, volunteers just pitching in to make it work. And it just made me think about all of the different places where that shows up. So this poem just starts to emerge about, well, where do you pull people from? So I'm on IG all the time. You see the algorithm, you see information, people pulling stuff together. It's like, well, what did I look at? And what was interesting? So the anthills, it brought up this idea of, one, if you see it, what anthills look like underground.
It's a whole thing.
It's
huge.
And you see the surface thing, but underneath that are all of these massive tributaries and labyrinths, and it's a lot like people. But what happens? Boom, you hit the top layer, things break apart, and the first thing is that everything at the top restores that sense of peace right here. And it was just like, we do this. We have gobsmacked. Things are moved, things are torn apart. But what's most important is that we immediately figure out how to put it all back together.
Mm.
And that idea of showing up to the moment, I'm eating honey kettle chicken. Chicken is fantastic. I'm like, yo, man. And there's a whole family. And I go to the guy. He's asking around, hey, you like the chicken? Go to him. He could have been home.
Mm.
He had every right
Mm-hmm.
to wallow. But he's like, no, there's people out here volunteering. We're going to feed them. His whole family, 5 houses and only one. And, what does it take? Which is a lot of times when we think about communication, at least a lot of the work that I focused on was those moments.
Mm.
The
Extreme.
Exactly.
Wow.
Right. Where it's like someone needs to be an anchor
Mm-hmm.
to draw a center of gravity
Mm-hmm.
and get things going.
Yeah.
And so, it just, it all came together, and the people that we were working with for that event, it was so many artists, there's so many people that we needed to show up, who we were concerned wouldn't show up or wouldn't be able to, but it was very emotional, just this recognition that what people just want is to pull it all in and pull it together in the face of these challenges.
Wow. And so with that, powerful story, as we all know, of what happened down in LA with the fires. Devastating time. But even just with what you wrote and with the gentleman you talked about, and I know there's many other examples of that, those are examples of exercising influence with the combination of one's mind, voice, and body, with actions, thoughts, and how you express and articulate those things. And in severe, dramatic moments like that, showing up is critical, because people are all over the place, and that anchor, which creates the gravity to harness the energy and move it together in a productive fashion. In order to do that, it takes influence. Now, using that as a thought, I wanted to zero in on, I'll call it the more typical moments and situations of the day. So like, for all those who are watching and those that are in the room, I'm just thinking about work. There are multiple moments throughout the day that, where it's important to show up, or a moment of influence is needed based on a project you're trying to do, and maybe the project team is at an impasse, or a decision needs to be made, but we're not really sure, or especially in moments where there's tensions, multiple points of view are in the room, something still needs to get done, and there's a time crunch. Time squeezes out pressure and things like that. And so how do you influence and show up as your best in those moments? And I wanted to just unpack that and get into that. And so I guess for starters, I want to just have you share about, some of the work you've done with different people in corporate, or just different things like that, and some of the skills.
Being here in San Francisco, it brings that exact point forward, because I had the opportunity to work with the San Francisco Police Department. They were actually, I was working with them the day that the NBA shut off during pre-COVID. And I'm like,
COVID,
you go to get your burger at the bowling alley, and they're like, the NBA is shutting down. And then I was like, let me call Delta right now, because it's time to but working with law enforcement is very interesting, because most of the time when people think about law enforcement, you have a lot of the sort of heated view of what law enforcement is, how they behave, or whatever have you. That's like 2% of the job is the having to go and even think about drawing a weapon. They're like, there's so much of it is just being on the beat and, being present, going in, welfare checks, things like that, and just talking to people. And so, even working in a high stakes environment, that sensation isn't all the time. But there are a lot of things that they see by the nature of the beat that puts pressure on the high stakes. And so a lot of times what we're looking at is context. I'll give you an example. during the George Floyd era
Mhm.
was on Zoom. And I'm like, what am I going to say to a bunch of police officers right now?
Wow.
And it came to me, it said, open up the Zoom. I said, look, guys, the firefighter is always the hero.
Mm.
Whenever a firefighter puts on their uniform, they are automatically the hero. They will take the cat out of the tree. They will pull the people out of the flames.
Mm.
I said, but America is on fire right now, and only you can put it out.
Mm.
And it's context framing, because it's like, okay, well, if we have a time crunch, as soon as I hear time crunch, what does that make you feel about? What do you feel?
Yeah, pressure.
You feel it, right? Be like, okay, or a deadline. What does that give you?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pending doom.
Mhm. Exactly. Right. And so there's this thing they call it's like semantic prosody, which is almost like the music of the word itself. So besides the voice, which is like, tone up and down, but like, so if I say something caused something versus something produced something, how does that feel? Like you say, oh, this caused X. How does that make you feel?
This caused that. It almost like started tones of guilt or like a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you go, this produces that, what does that feel like?
Yeah. It does feel more palatable, more fruitful, more, a better tone.
Right. And so you hear, well, this will cause this. Automatically, the gravity of that word starts to pull in more bias towards, more negativity. But if I say, oh, this is produces something, it's like, okay, well, something's been generated. Okay, well, what's been generated? A challenge has been generated. That's very different from you've caused a problem or you've caused a challenge.
And that starts to hint at blame too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we talked about the sense of agency. So, you're working with people who, like customer service reps.
That's tough.
You call them as if they're the one that is the reason you're calling.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is fielding the ball. So people come inflamed and everything else. And you have this agility to sit there and recognize consistently that, they're coming in with a hot plane. And if I'm looking for, okay, well, what has the situation that you've given me produced in your situation or your environment that you're uncomfortable with? That's a lot easier to try to manage than trying to fix their problem or find the cause of it, like from a very medicinal, diagnostic kind of way. And so, it's really utilizing how your language also affects the tonality behind the language.
Wow.
Because the way that you're talking about it is the way that people are going to talk around it.
Right? They're going to receive it.
Exactly. We have a bunch of people in a room and you talk about a thing in a certain way. You get about 7 people to, they group influence. They found that like juries work like this and all that. You get this thing. You create a center of gravity toward a certain, point, and then it's either the point's going this way or it's going that way. So giving people these tools, one, to stop beating themselves up. That's the first thing, right? People are like, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible communicator. Like, no. You have a set of terms and conditions with which you've learned to speak.
Okay. Yeah.
And we don't know what those are yet, right? But they're not getting you what you want now. Maybe they worked here and here. Maybe they helped you deal with, challenging parents. Maybe they helped you deal with challenging mentors, teachers, or tutors. But then you get into a work environment and it's like, well, this vocabulary doesn't fit this algorithm. And you're like, well, how can we shift that so that when there's cognitive dissonance because somebody says something over here, they're like, oh, well, this caused this. And then somebody else goes, well, this actually produced this. You're already talking 2 different languages. One person's like, gloom and doom, find the fire. And the other person's like, find the water hose so we can put it out, just by the way that they're speaking. And so you have a tonal clash. And we attempt to bring down the tonal clash between yourself, your colleagues, yourself, and the people that you lead, and all of these kinds of things to create harmony, not necessarily, beds of roses,
Mhm.
but harmony for the sake of the song.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love that. So a couple things, just pulling it out here for our audience,
Yeah.
with the example you use with
Mm.
what is causing this versus what is producing. Because if you're producing something, if you're producing an outcome that
Mm.
you either don't like or is not the best outcome, the way I'm processing it in my mind right now is, okay, I can just produce something else.
Mm-hmm.
But if something is causing something,
Mm.
yeah, my mind typically goes to blame and the how can we fix either you, that person, the
Mhm.
thing, or something, versus, okay, let's just produce something else.
Mhm.
And we tweak these different details and the outcome will be more desirable. So I love that. And then back to what I was saying at the beginning, with our minds, voices, and our bodies,
Mm.
when I think about the mind, our vocabulary.
Mm.
So the words that we use is the first piece with how we show up.
Mhm.
What words are we using, that best fit the language of the others that we're talking to,
Mm.
that best meets the moment. And I guess to what you're saying, if there's an opportunity to download a new set of vocabulary or a new set of words that better meet the context that we're in, that's the first step, or at least one of the first steps or fundamental thing.
What is something you said about the others? I'm gonna tell you, man,
Mhm.
and this is probably either antithetical or controversial, and it doesn't need to be.
Mhm.
It's less about the others.
Mm.
It's more about being observed as someone that is softly certain. And I say softly certain because certainty is important
Mhm.
in order for people to, because they can hear it. For example, I want you to look around the room real quick and just kind of look at different points and not really decide which one you really want to look at. You're like, oh, that door, that. And just like talk to me out loud about what you had for breakfast this morning.
Oh, okay. Well, it's ironic because I'm actually doing a fast this morning.
Right. Oh, yes, let's talk about it.
And so if I'm doing a special fast tomorrow morning, I won't be doing a fast. But yeah, what I do with it, I do this special little fitness thing. I do these body measurements. And I typically like to fast for about 24 to 36 hours before to try to get the best number as possible. And that's what I like.
Okay. Now, I want you to pick a point
Mhm.
and choose that point and say the same thing again.
Okay. So what I had for breakfast this morning was actually a glass of water. The reason why I do that is because I'm doing a fast right now. So I'm between like a 24 to 36 hour fasting moment. And the reason why I'm doing that is to help with my body measurement types of things which helps to support my fitness journey.
So, what did you observe between those two presentations of the same information? What did you observe for yourself?
As I was speaking, the first go around,
Mhm.
I did feel a little all over the place. I think I was talking a little fast. I think I was. And as I was bouncing around with my eyes, I was taking in a bunch of information visually and then at the same time trying to talk. And so it was like a traffic jam going on. And then the second go around,
Yeah.
I did feel more grounded.
Mm.
I think I talked a little bit slower, or at least I felt more deliberate with my different points with what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How many times do you think this happens to all of us?
Mm.
Where people go, oh, I'm a horrible community. No. What's happening is that you're looking around and you're drawing straws. And so because you don't really know where in your mind you want to be, so everything just sounds like you're here, you're there, you're there, you're there. And you're like, well, how does this happen? And what does this do? And how does this affect our voice? So there's a couple of things about our visual system.
Mm-hmm.
The one is I'm looking around,
Mm-hmm.
but the other thing is that when I remember something,
Mhm.
my eyes will move to the place where a location and time of the memory. So for example, let's say you were to remember a room in your house
Okay.
and just be in that room. And there's an item that's over there.
Mhm.
Your eyes will go to that place
That's how you
because
remember.
that's how you remember it.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you're talking about something that's important or you're making a point, it's not just you scanning the room, because if you spend time scanning the room, let's say you scan for, do people like me?
Mm.
Are they taking in what I'm saying? Why is that person looking at me like that? Or this person really thinks that, oh, they're on their phone, right?
Mm.
You're taking in that data, right? While simultaneously attempting to keep your place in your point.
Oh, it's a lot to do in the moment.
Just that.
And forget about influence.
Right, right. It's,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
exactly. So what happens is that we have to become much more aware of and much more certain about what we are thinking about. Because if I spend time thinking about what the audience is thinking, now I'm out of my mind and I'm trying to do some sort of like, ghost in the shell, matrix body jumping, which creates its own anxiety. And people feel that.
Yeah. And the irony with what you just said is, in a public speaking moment,
Mhm.
all those people came to hear what's on your mind,
Mhm.
and you're thinking about what's on their mind.
Absolutely.
And so it's like a mismatch.
Exactly.
Mismatch in the moment.
And they feel it. They're like, what's going on? Like, why is this person searching for? Now, there's a place for when exploring
Mhm.
is okay. And that's when you are actually exploring your own thinking live.
Oh, okay.
When you have a speaker that is okay with, like, I'm searching, I'm scanning my own memory.
Mhm.
I'm not scanning the audience for their reactions. I'm not scanning them for their feelings, because that takes me out of my memory. And then I'm going to be looking over there. But let's say what I'm trying to recall
Mhm.
is over here.
Oh.
And there's somebody over there that's doing something I don't like. Well, guess what? I'm playing pong just between 2 points. Here, 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 here. And let's do my voice. Just this. I'm not even trying to be, but it creates that sense of place, that sense of where you are, that awareness is what the audience becomes aware of.
Because they will key on what
Absolutely.
you're producing
Absolutely.
and what you're generating
Mhm.
in those moments.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is excellent. Now, I wanted to continue on now. You're talking a little bit more about the body,
Yeah.
how to use that. One thing that I think about when it comes to communications and presenting, I have a bit of musicianship in my background, and so I think about my voice and my body as an instrument, and being able to exhibit those types of musical qualities as I'm communicating or talking. And it's almost like singing a song or literally playing an instrument. You can talk real fast if need be. Sometimes you can go up in your volume, sometimes you can go down, modulate the tone, the pace, based on what the notes, which is the content of what you're trying to say, to bring it to life. But I want to get your thoughts on that, any techniques, things like that.
Yeah, so the instrumentation and the human voice is capable of doing so many things. You got beatboxing, you have singing, you have rapping, you have poetry, you have just regular dialogue, and then you have all of these languages, some that are tonal. You can change the meaning of a word just by changing how it sounds. All of these various things, and so playing your instrument, holding the instrument, learning how to hold a violin, how to hold a cello, how to hold a guitar, how to sit at the piano, depending on what you want to play, we have this, this ability to kind of move around. So one of the things that we can look at, I want you to think about something that you ate recently that was delicious.
That's easy. It was not today, but it was easy.
Today.
But it was good. Didn't have to go back too far.
There you go. So tell us about it. What was it?
It was an amazing piece of ahi tuna that I had at lunch. It it hit the spot. It was nice, and it was semi raw. I like that type of tuna. It was cooked, or I guess blackened a little bit to perfection. and had a nice sprinkle of salt on it to kind of bring out the flavor and the tone. I'm big into protein as part of my diet, and so I was checking a couple of boxes: my taste, flavor profile, and the nutrition side as well.
There you go. Now I have to do this to you.
Mhm.
I want you to think about something that you ate that was like, and tell us about that.
Oh, well, the first thing I think about, well, I try to stay away from things I don't like to taste and things like that, but pickles. I hate the taste of pickles. Oh my goodness, it's horrible. I don't even understand why or how people can even eat pickles.
So
Yeah.
now,
Can we move on to another topic?
no, yeah, exactly. Listen, yeah, so let's go back to your other meal, right?
Okay.
Let's go back.
Uh-huh.
Now, well, all that we did was
Uh-huh.
invite a culinary experience, a food experience,
Mhm.
and your whole body responded accordingly.
Oh, yeah.
So think about what we talked about before about semantic prosody, like cause versus produce.
Mhm.
If I think about something that caused an issue,
Mhm.
you caused this. How could you
Mm.
do this to me? Right?
Okay.
How do pickles violate me? Right? But then you're like, this versus something that's been produced.
Mhm.
And you were like, it was grated with the smoke, and the smoke filled my lungs, and then it was just, look at what was wonderfully made.
Uh-huh.
It changes the tuning because your body is either moving toward it or away from it.
Yeah, I can see that.
So when you're talking, so let's take this to something. San Francisco traffic.
San Francisco.
Yes. Now what I want you to do is I want you to think about the first meal
Okay.
and just tell me about San Francisco traffic.
Yeah, well, San Francisco traffic, it can be busy, but if you use the train system, it's actually not bad at all. You can get to where you're going, or at least with my personal commute, I can get to where I'm going, and it's a different type of traffic, but it's a type of traffic that I can deal with, and I like it.
All right. Same thing, but now I want you to think about pickles
Okay.
and tell me about San Francisco traffic.
All right. So San Francisco traffic with the train. So the other week, the entire train system, the BART system, was shut down for the entire Bay Area. And this is during the week. And so gridlock, people can't go where they normally go. Like I said before, like that nice, smooth experience. Now I got to get in the car. And now my commute time just doubled or perhaps tripled based on where I'm going. Oh, and then let alone if I have a deadline, by the way, it's something that where I needed to be. And usually the train can get me there faster, but the system's down. And so I'm not going to get there until, a few increments of time later. And now we got pressure and this, and the person just cut me off right in front of me.
All right. Now, those were two very different stories about the same topic.
Okay.
Now, what did you observe for yourself?
Yeah. With my voice, I think the second go around probably a little bit faster because I guess I was agitated by it. Maybe more exaggerated. I tend to speak with my hands and arms and things like that. And then with my tone, yeah, I think I was talking with the taste of a pickle in my mouth, which,
right. Now, so you would think about just when someone's having a bad day, what is some of the terms that we like to use? We say, who peed in your cereal?
No.
This left a bad taste in my mouth. We use those terms to describe negative experiences. And we're like, so you're buttering me up. But on the other end, we say, oh, that sweetened the deal, right? To say that this was something I was willing to ingest. Now, the reason why, I explore those things because the body's appetitive system, meaning the body's willingness to engage based on what I'm thinking about. I'm like, man, I love some mahi, and so, let's talk about the traffic. It's not so bad, is it? Yeah, as soon as you're thinking about those pickles, you're like, and then the train, and then the story got longer,
Oh,
And
serial killer.
your body language is very much like this, because
Uh,
this language is the body like defensive. Get this away from me,
mm,
right? Versus something that I'm willing to accept. Have you ever eaten good food like this?
good
Like,
point.
no,
Good
you're
point.
smooth. You're like,
Want to enjoy this.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Business deals happen over dinner, family dinners. Why certain topics ruin the dinner. It's like, why would you bring that up when everyone's at the table? Now the meal is ruined because we want to fight grandma now, right?
Yeah.
So, there's these connections between all of our senses.
Mm,
And so, when I bring these things forward, it's like you never know what someone has in their back channel.
mm,
Because if, let's say, you were just telling the story about San Francisco traffic, the second one,
mhm.
we can make a whole bunch of assumptions about you and your personality and what you was thinking about,
True.
right? Like, and I would decide, like, whoa, man, Larry, man, he seems to really be pissed off about the traffic in San Francisco.
He's an angry man.
Right, he's an angry guy. Like, all he was doing was thinking about how much he doesn't like pickles. And that happened to be a thought. And remember, where your memory is going, your mind is going too.
Mm,
So when we think about what we're saying, which is also why I say you cannot spend time worrying about the external, what they're thinking,
mhm.
because your own thinking is going to guide what you're saying.
Mm,
So if I'm thinking about something that I'm like, I really enjoyed this thing. And like for example, let's say you go and you're networking.
okay.
If you're gonna externalize your thoughts, find something that you like about the person as fast as you can.
Ah,
And you're like,
okay.
man, I really love those blue shoes. Because what happens is now your mind is focused on like this appetite of like, I like that. And then you have this sort of free flow because your airway defense system, which is how you breathe and talk, is not shutting down. Because
Mm,
let's say I look at them like, ugh, I don't like you.
mm,
The brain, the body does a whole, it doesn't compartmentalize. It
mm,
goes, oh, you don't like that? Let's not look at it too well. Let's not breathe it in. Let's make sure we don't, let's make sure we don't touch it, right?
mm.
All of that stuff comes out in your voice.
Oh,
But if I'm like, man, those are some blue shoes. Where did you get those?
yeah.
Now there's this affiliation.
Mhm.
Now it's like those are shoes that I'm willing to pick up off the shelf. I'm willing to engage with those shoes, and then I can tolerate you a little while longer. That way you don't spend so much time, trying to jujitsu yourself into, forcing something like because people feel that too when you try too hard.
Mm,
When they can also feel your restraint. They're like, because the trying is not so much the effort.
mhm.
It's the conflict that they're sensing.
Oh, the tension.
They're sensing the
Yeah.
like push pull. And so now it's like, I don't really want to be here, but I have to be here. And so I'm going to be here. And they're like, oh, now you're a tryhard.
Mm,
And it's like, no, I don't want to be here right now. However, I'm willing to accept the situation and the conditions. Your body relaxes
Mhm.
because you have personally accepted that you are in a room or in a space or next to this person or this person's talking to you. But if you're rejecting that,
mhm.
all
Interesting.
bets are up.
Yeah,
You can't fake it because your body's like, we're not doing this with you
yeah.
because we don't know if this is a pathogen. It's to protect us.
Ah,
Like your immune system doesn't go,
it's binary.
is that cancer? I don't know. Let's talk to it. Like, no, it's like
Get away.
exactly.
Uh.
So we have to turn down the defenses. And so we have things that come at us. We have things that we've learned. We've
Mhm.
had ways that are unconsciously contributing to what we accept and reject.
Mm.
We all have that.
Mhm.
We have like been conditioned to be like, that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad. And so sometimes you'll have that knee-jerk response.
Snap judgment. Uh-huh.
And then you start talking from that place and you're like, why did I say it like that? Okay, well, no, now they think I'm a horrible bigot, like whatever it is. But really, it's just the conscious awareness of like, hey, listen, man, I go to the grocery store and there's some things I skip.
Mm.
There's certain I don't spend as much time in the produce aisle as I spend on the aisle with Hostess cakes. You know what I mean? Like that's just what I do. But if I am aware of that
Mhm.
versus just like going off of my knee-jerk response, then it becomes easier to navigate.
Yeah, and it opens up the opportunity to develop and evolve and grow.
Yeah, and bite an apple.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
but yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Wait, sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Bite a banana. Can't say the A word where we are at the G.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's
You know
fair.
what I mean? Just
Yeah, yeah.
neutral territory.
Yeah. Now, one thing we'll do, we'll talk about the book, Tonal Influence here. We're going to get into this here in a moment.
Mm.
But before we do, I wanted to talk a little bit about everything we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I want to nail it into like a practical
Mhm.
application moment. So for example, something that I'm thinking about, for the folks that are listening and viewing, I imagine that some of us may work in sales.
Mm.
And so there's a special meeting with a potential client where you're
Mhm.
trying to win the business.
Mhm.
How do you show up in that moment? Or like if you're working with a cross-functional team,
Mhm.
being able to connect and communicate to at the end of the day, influence.
Yes.
Because in sales, you're trying to influence them to choose you
Mhm.
to buy whatever it is you're selling. In a work team cross-functional situation, the way I think about it, it's very similar. It's like a version of buying and selling. And the way I think about it, I forgot the name of the movie where they say it's like we're always negotiating. Al Pacino said it, but I think about it in that way. Like even if we're like walking along from here to lunch or something like that, hey, I got a quick idea I want to share with you. In the meeting later today, here's this thing. So how do I talk about that? Maybe an elevator pitch or quick ideas, but thoughts on those things.
Man, so you have a gamut. So
Okay.
The first thing with sales is you're never selling to the person you're talking to. You're selling into the network that they're a part of.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that when someone buys something, it's because no one buys a fancy car just to have. They buy the fancy car, even if it stays in the garage. It's because they want their friends to come over,
And check out.
open up that garage, and yeah, that's me right there. That's what it's for. Now, that's, from a vanity perspective, you have that. But then let's say you buy a car, and you can look at car commercials for this. There was like a TikTok trend where they had 4 different kinds of commercials for a car, and it was like luxury, the Mercedes-Benz, blah 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 blah. They say with a tone like this. This is what people think about you.
Yeah.
You have safety, the buckle the seatbelt, blah blah blah. You have adventure, right? Like there's a tonality of who you will be with when you have this product. Now, from a work perspective, you're selling a software as a service. The person who buys it, they have people to answer to that they want to high five and say, yeah, that was a great decision that you made when you made that purchase. That's the sensation that they're looking for. And so when you're talking to people, you're not just talking to them. You're like, you're hurting, and who else is hurting around you because you don't have this? What damage is being incurred over time? And you might not necessarily before you well, here's my product. Like, first, we just really want to know where the pain point is, because the pain point has to outweigh the price point. Because if it's like, oh, this is super expensive, well, it doesn't really hurt that much.
Thanks, but no thanks.
This doesn't really hurt 30, 45,000. No, this is more of a $20 pain right here. I can put a Band-Aid on it, probably get one for free. But that sensation of the absence of the thing, because even people that want things that are quote unquote vanity metrics, there's a pain they feel by not having it. Right. New sneakers come out.
I need those.
People.
I've been paying because I don't have the
Like, yo, I missed the deadline. I'm swiping. I'm refreshing. They're sold out. There's a deep pain there. that Nike and all the other companies tap into on a cyclical basis.
That's true,
right?
Yeah.
So you're never you're never selling anything from like being eager to get rid of it. And so one of the things that the word sale comes from reluctance, which is very interesting, because when I'm selling something to you, it's valuable to me. So I really don't want to get rid of this. You ever have a salesperson that's really like, why do you want to get rid of this so bad? Like when they're so like, yo, just take it, please.
Yeah.
You're like, is there something wrong with
Is there
it?
something wrong with it? That's where my mind
Are you
goes.
passing me trash?
Yeah.
But when you are reluctant with your time, your energy, your effort, the item,
That creates a demand.
it creates a demand. And it also says to the other person, this person values what they're holding.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just curious about if that value being transferred over to you is really going to be as meaningful to you
Mm-hmm.
because of what you've said. So if you're selling insurance, if you're selling software, if you're selling cars,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like how much of this need is really affecting you. And that's why, you have salespeople who, they're cool and they're calm and they're not in a rush. They're never in a rush. It's like, take your time. You want to buy this thing? Go ahead, look around. When the salesperson's up under you, there's a thing called the bank system. What I like, it was 4 words: blueprint, action, nurture, and knowledge. There was a young lady that created this system. And basically the blueprint people care about status quo. They care about, will this keep me and my family, like legacy? Then you have the A people that are about the action. They want to just do, like, tell me what to do and I will do it. Then you have the N, those are the nurture people that care about saving whales. And then you have the K, which are knowledge people. And those are the people that read the entire website before they buy the thing, right? And if you look at certain products, you can see the website will actually appeal to all of those.
Okay.
You'll have, boom, this is the new one. You're just gonna buy it because it's right there, click, buy, done.
Yeah.
And then you have the blueprint, which is like, okay, we're gonna tell you how some of the stuff that you already know, we still got it, we just made it better. And you're like, oh, all right, yeah, I still have this, you made it better, cool. Then you have the nurture people, and that's like, well, look at the photos and look at the family memories and feel things.
Yeah.
You have the knowledge people that are reading, like, I didn't realize that fine print could really be that fine on a web page, but like there's information there that's valuable, but they're not buying until they read it. But all of these things, when you look at the activity of like a web page, it's just there.
Yeah. And so to summarize it here is when it comes to influence in a sales situation or even just in a cross-functional team meeting, project situation, understanding your audience, understanding what appeals to them, having the vocabulary, the knowledge and the skills. If it's a conversation, having the right tone to be able to appeal to the pain or what's missing. And also think about cost versus value, like the cost of this versus the value of what you're holding. And does it match and is it appropriate? And having those things in mind, you can articulate, what's going to happen in the 3:00 meeting today, or here's the thing that I need your approval on. But here's the big idea of what it is. And keeping those things in mind as you articulate those different points to influence. Yeah,
absolutely. And I love that that word, approval. So if I say I want your approval, that is one way to say that. I need your approval on this. Another way to look at that is, here's some things or some possible outcomes based on your approval of this. Because when I say I need your approval, now your personality and identity wind up becoming intertwined with the ask.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, I would love your approval on this. So now the rejection, and this is only because, again, the body, the brain, like we like to think we're like chopping things up into small pieces, but there's a holistic system here. So it's like the idea gets rejected. You rejected me. You go home and you feel like you're horrible. If I go, here's this, this item, this idea, this thought. Eyes on this. Here's some outcomes that are statistically likely based on you saying yes to this. And here's some outcomes that are statistically likely if you say no. And then it's like, it's just there. They look exactly. And you create that sense of space from your person to the problem or the point or the idea.
Man, that's a great tip. This reminds me of some of the other conversations we had from our SMART series of conversations with intelligence I'm
Mm.
thinking about. So there's mental IQ, mental intelligence,
Mm.
emotional intelligence, social intelligence, others, spiritual intelligence, the essence of who you are. All these different things are working together. Physical intelligence too, understanding and reading your body as well. And when in that example, when you detach, in a way you're kind of protecting yourself.
Mm.
You're using your knowledge to tee it up properly. And then if the decider makes their decision, it doesn't impact you emotionally,
Mhm.
mentally, negative self-talk. I'm thinking those types of things, and that can spiral depending on the gravity of the moment or the situation there. Excellent. Okay. Now we'll do the last piece here
Mhm.
is total influence. And we've actually, as we've been talking today, we've been actually touching on a number of different ideas and techniques within it. But any just key things you want to just highlight or mention?
So one, the book is written with social media, the social media mind in mind. It was like, okay, some people just want to open Instagram, open something, get a tip, move on with their life. So every chapter is a single page that take you about 2 to 3 minutes of reading time to ingest a single idea to try. Right. One that I like that I think will connect to what we were talking about in particular was one last thing, which was based on Columbo. Columbo is America's Sherlock Holmes, if you will.
Yeah.
He was a detective, and he had this way of one, disarming whoever. The TV show would always
Sure.
show us,
Yeah.
who did it. So we always knew, and it was like, well, how does Columbo figure it out? But one of the things he never did was let people on. Like he would come, he would like walk out the door, go, one more thing. I'm trying to figure out how this and that, strange. Those were the moments when we knew as an audience, oh, he's on to them. But one of the things that people no one wants to be accused of murder, nor do they want to be accused of being stupid. And so a lot of times when we share knowledge or we share something, we share from the perspective of like, well, I need you to know that I know that you don't know what I just told you. And then
I've been in so many.
Man, listen, let me tell you. And man, it's just like being caught red-handed. Oh, I'm stupid. I knew it, right?
The secret's out.
Right, the secret's out. I'm an idiot. But we want to avoid putting people in those positions. We do live in an environment where markers of intellect are rewarded greatly. And so people don't want to, you watch Jeopardy, look at it like Jeopardy, like, oh, I knew the answer. Like, I'm smart, I made money. Money, smart. Wow. So you see this reward system based on how much you know or don't know. But if you can talk to people in a way where you allow them just to look at a thing, like I'm not looking at this. It's not like this is my big brain and your big brain doesn't understand. It's like this is a thing that I'm looking at. Let's look at it together and then figure that out. And I would challenge that as one place to its influence comes from influere, which just means inflow.
Inflow.
And so when you can negatively influence someone in like the tide is inflow and then it takes you away, right? Or the tide can move you downstream where you want to go. And so when you're looking at how people's trains of thoughts are moving, no one wants a big rock of I'm an idiot in their river.
True.
But if you're like, hey, here's this idea. Why don't you see where this will take us?
Let's explore it together.
Let's explore it, right? Now, your voice even will flow with that. Because the intent of like letting someone know the hammer of like their lack of
judgment.
It comes down, we give it out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man. So one more thing. You know, just
One more thing.
yeah.
It's a shout out to all the Gen X and baby boomers.
That's right.
Columbo from the 1970s. Yeah, so that is tonal influence. So again, a bunch of different techniques, tips, and tricks that are packed in here. Yeah, I've read the book; it's amazing, and we've woven in a lot of what is discussed here in our conversation today. And so I wanted to encourage everybody to, if you're in the room, here's a copy of it. Take it with you. If you're watching with us online, you can get it on the audiobook. Thank you for an amazing conversation to really explore, the essence of how we show up. And regardless of our background or a number of things going on, we just talked about a whole set of skills that anyone have access to. It's just a matter of knowing you have access to it and then just practicing and getting better at it day by day. So thank you very much for an amazing conversation.